Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this month's national webinar. Today, we are joined by Katie Gleboff of RPR. But before we begin, we're excited about a few newer highlights here at Allison James Estates and Homes. The first being our coaching program. This is a nationwide program that caters to all levels of production. If you want to be coached by a top producing agent, understand your weaknesses and how to overcome them, and increase your social media and marketing knowledge, this program is for you. Other highlights are Real Estate Tools and Technology Tuesday and our Fun Facts Friday, which will feature anything related to the tools AJI offers. Both are live on Facebook. Lastly, please don't hesitate to schedule a one-on-one call with me, Tracy Hansen, your agent relations specialist, where we can go over any questions or concerns you have with our systems here at Allison James, or if you just need a refresher course on AJI University. You can reach me at support@ajicorporate.com. Again, that is support@ajicorporate.com. And without further ado, I will hand the spotlight over to Katie with RPR. Katie, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Allison, and not Allison James. Thank you, Tracy. So excited to be presenting this webinar to Allison James. We have a loaded hour for our 10 ways to earn more business than your competition. So we want to go ahead and get started. So a little bit of background if you're new to RPR. RPR is Realtors Property Resource. And we are NAR's technology company. We're a wholly owned subsidiary corporation. We're a national database of parcel-centric property information on over 166 million US properties. So that base layer of information, you as realtor members have access to that parcel information, statistical information, demographic information from coast to coast. For your local area, and for even some other areas around the country, you also have access to that active, sold, and off-market data from your local MLS. We are for the exclusive use of realtor members only, so you will hear me use the term realtor-centric because this is a tool for you to be the best realtor that you can be. We are delivered through a constantly evolving leading edge application that we update constantly. It's going to work on your desktop or your mobile device, whether it's a Windows-based computer, a Mac, an iPad, or any Android-based device. You'll have access to it through our app. And there's no additional charge to realtors to access this tool, whether you're using our mobile device or our desktop application. It's a dues benefit, so take advantage of any dues benefit that you have. Most important, there's no consumer or public access to RPR. We don't have any sort of portal. We don't have any sort of auto notification. The only way a member of the public would get information from RPR is through a report that their agent provides them. So let's take just a quick second to talk about what RPR is not. We are not an MLS. We are not competing with your MLS. We are a tool that you're going to use in conjunction with your MLS. Again, we are not a consumer-facing business model. We do not syndicate. We do not redistribute, and we don't sell your data or your listings data. And again, we are not available to anyone other than Realtor members of the National Association of Realtors. Now, in RPR, you will see estimates of value, and these may be an AVM or an RVM, and they're going to be on a large percentage of the properties that you see in RPR. So your AVM is an automated valuation model, and this is a market value estimate calculated using only publicly available information. So a property may have an AVM if it's in a more rural area, if it's new construction. This would be very close to the Zestimate that Zillow uses, although Zestimate uses their own proprietary formula. An AVM that's in RPR is generated using Realtors Property Resources proprietary formula, but it's calculated using publicly available information. Then we have our RVM, which is the realtor's valuation model. This is trademarked to RPR. It will only appear in RPR or on a report that's generated by an agent if the agent chooses to have it appear. The RVM is a market value estimate calculated using the publicly available information plus that local MLS active, sold, and off-market data. So it's updated, it's timely, and it's accurate, okay, of all valuation products that are available. So you will see one or the other on a property detail in RPR. So what are the top 10s that we're going to cover today? We're going to share some ways on how to uncover seller motivation, how you can value home improvements. I'm going to share with you a comparative analysis, which is your quick type of CMA, and then we're going to go into a more detailed sales comparison analysis, which yields a valuation workbook, much like in a appraiser style analysis. We're going to go through some quick searches on how to search for distressed properties that could be potentially unlisted properties, and then also properties that are in distress for your buyers if you're looking to target those listed properties. I'm going to show you some great mapping tools that you have, a market area activity report, which is great for a seller's competition report. We'll go through neighborhood reports on how to view local demographics. I'm going to share with you some tools that you have at your fingertips if you work with clients that are relocating to or from an area. And I'm going to give you a little tool that you have at your fingertips under our RPR commercial, which is the trade area report. So we want to go ahead and get started.
Katie, so before we get started, let me interrupt you real quick. I want to let everybody know that they are welcome to ask questions. Please go ahead and type them in, and as they come up, if they are pertinent to the information Katie's giving us, I will then stop her and ask the question for you. So just want to let them know that, Katie, before you get just too much deeper into this. So thank you for allowing me to interrupt you.
No problem. Let's go ahead and get started on how to use RPR to determine sellers' motivation. I'm just very quickly going to swipe over into our RPR account. Now, I'm already logged in to RPR with a demo account. I'm going to have a slide at the end on where you can find your login to RPR. So you'll have that information at the end of our presentation today. I would just like to let everyone know, Allison James is a broker tools brokerage with RPR. So as soon as you log in, you're going to see that you have your branding within RPR. Your brokerage branding will automatically appear on any report. So when you come in, you just want to take a look on that upper left-hand side. Make sure you see that Allison James logo. That way you're secure in knowing that your branding is going to be throughout RPR and throughout the reports that you generate. So we have past clients, maybe they call, they want you to come over and tell them what their house is worth, they're thinking about moving, and you want to get an idea about their seller's motivation. So we're going to come into RPR, we're going to go to our main search tab, which is this search box right in the middle of the home screen where that graphic is, so it really jumps off the page at you. We're going to make sure we're in our All Properties search tab. Our All Properties search tab is essentially your public record or your parcel search. So whether a property is currently listed or not, whether it expired recently, whether it's in financial distress, regardless of the so-called status of the property, as long as it finds a hit on the address, it's going to come up. Now, I've already gone out and found a demo address. So I'm going to go ahead and type in that address, which is 2836 Hillsborough Court in Carlsbad, California. So I'm just going to type that in, and I'm going to go to the right of my search bar and click on that magnifying glass. As soon as I click on that magnifying glass, it's going to bring up my parcel report for the property. When you're doing research on a property, it's oftentimes that we are jumping back and forth through different programs. Hopefully RPR will help you minimize that jumping back and forth. But I do like to point out where you see your property address right here at the top. To the right of that, you will see a little star. And when you click on that star, it's going to highlight it yellow like you see here. And that's going to add that property to your saved listings. That way, if you come into RPR anytime in the future, when you're at your home page, you have saved, and then right here in your drop downs are all of your saved listings, all of your saved searches, all of your same market area activity searches. And it makes it really easy to retrieve that information, especially if you're going to be going back and forth reviewing that property information. So a great way for you to determine seller's motivation, we are going to jump right into the history tab that we have along the top of our property address. So the summary is the summary of property information, home facts, home values, interior, exterior information. Our seller's motivation is going to be under this history tab. So when I select history, it's going to keep us with our address. We're going to get our sales and financing activity graph. Our key is displayed right at the top here, so we can see any previous sale, any listing activity that's occurred, any financing activity, which could be a mortgage, a refinance, a revolving line of credit, any potential distressed action, assessed values, AVM, increases and decreases, and then our estimated loan balance payoff. So here we can see this line. This is our RVM value. Okay, and you can at any point hover over that line, and I'm going to say this, I do use a MacBook. I use Chrome on my MacBook. I have verified it with Chrome on a Windows-based computer as well. If I stop on any of these icons within that graph, I will get a little pop-up that says this property was off market back in 2013. So I know they have interest in trying to sell the property. They had it listed previously a few years ago.
Katie, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I do have a question from Adrian Cratch asking exactly where did you go to get onto RPR? I know on my MLS, I just go onto my, I believe it's like my resources or one of those up there.
Most MLSs will have a link to RPR
Yes.
within their homepage or their helpful links or their resources section. You can also go right to our website, which is narrpr.com. And I will again have a slide at the end of the presentation with all of our contact information, our blog, and how you can access RPR after the presentation today.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie.
Okay, you're welcome. We do have a section under our sales and financing activity for notes. Anytime you see a notes section, as soon as you start typing those notes, you will have a little checkbox where you can opt to include or not include those in your reports. So there are notes that you can keep private to yourself, and there are notes that you can share with a potential client. What we're going to see after that is prior sales transactions. And this is going to allow you to toggle between what sale recorded through the MLS and what sale recorded through public record. And that's something that you want to pay attention to when working with seller's motivation, because you may have activity that shows an interfamily transfer, which may indicate a divorce, a transfer to a trust, which could imply that there was a death or an illness. So that public record is going to really give you information on potential motivation for that sale. So you can see all of that information there. It's a great tool to find out if it's sold through a for sale by owner as well. You're gonna scroll down and see your tax assessment information. This is gonna go as far back as we can get from your local property appraiser. And just below that is your mortgage information. And again, this is gonna go back to as far as we can get from a lender. So we can see that there was a mortgage on the property in 2002. We had another mortgage, maybe a second, in 2013. We had another one in 2017. So you can kind of start to see if their equity is a big role player in their motivation to sell. And then if it applies, any distressed information would also appear to the bottom. And we do get distressed information from the clerk of courts. So from the court system in the local market area. So that information would be there as well. So here under that history tab is really how you can start to uncover that seller's motivation. I'm going to click back into our summary tab. I'm going to jump back to our PowerPoint, and we're going to talk about our top ways, number 2, which is how to value home improvements. When it comes to working with a homeowner, you can have lots of different scenarios where their home value is a major concern to that homeowner. Oftentimes with sellers, you can help them understand the current market, and the local market conditions and how that may impact the market value of their home. You can determine the depreciated value of home improvements that they've done in the past. You can also work with the seller to predict the potential of improvements done and if that will increase the value before a house is put on market. So if they need to do some curb appeal, to bring it up to par with some neighboring properties, this is a great tool. If you work with buyers, this is a tool to help you determine potential value for improvements when you're flipping a house. First-time homebuyers for a fixer-upper, what improvements would give them a good return on their money? And we're going to talk about the value of home improvements by sticking to this toolbar that we have at the top. And we're going to click where it says refined value. That's going to bring us into our value tool. And you have 4 main ways to refine the value. Now, our current RVM, which remember is a market value estimate using not only publicly available information, but the local active, sold, and off-market data as well. So we're at a value right now just under $543,000, and we're going to look at the 4 tools that we have to refine that value. The first tool that we have is refining the value by adjusting the basic facts for the property. These could be improvements that were done that adjusted the footprint of the home and may not be reflected on public record. It could be due to errors and omissions from public record. I know you guys have offices all around the country, and you're pretty dominant in California and Florida. So the public record information that you see on my screen here is California. If you look at public record in Florida, they have some omissions that you may want to take into account. And you can refine that by adjusting the basic facts. And I'm going to show you a quick example. If this property's living area is just under 1,700 square feet, and let's say they extended a kitchen out and added an additional 100 square feet to the property. So I'm going to come in and say this property is now 1,800 square feet. If I apply those changes, you're going to see that that's going to add about $21,000 in value to this property. So that's how you can refine the value, by adjusting the basic facts. There's a link right under there where I can restore and erase that information from my refine value tool. The next way that we can refine value is based on home improvements that were done to the property. Now, RPR partners with a lot of great programs and companies that are out there. And one of our partners is a company called Hanley Wood, and Hanley Wood is a nation's leader in new construction and remodeling. They actually publish a remodeling magazine, and they look at this information every year and at a regional level. So they're providing us with the values that are being generated when you're using this tool. Now we have a list of home improvements that can be done to a property. This is a national list and it's fixed. So we don't really add anything to it or take anything away from it that often. And you'll also see that there are duplications of information in here. So you'll see you have a bathroom remodel, there's a mid-range and an upscale. You have deck, there's a couple of different applicable deck additions. You have a composite, which could be mid-range or upscale. You have a wood deck. You have major kitchen remodels, major kitchen remodel, and a mid-range and upscale. And anytime you see that duplication where it could be mid-range or upscale, you can click right on that option and it will give you a definition. So here you're going to use that realtor-centric expertise that you have, look at the features of it, the kitchen, and then you're going to set it to what the closest match is. Okay, so if they did a major kitchen remodel, this property's in Carlsbad, California, which is a pretty nice area. So most likely we'll say they did an upscale kitchen remodel. They did that kitchen remodel, let's say in April of 2012. The owners of the property kept their paperwork so they know when they did this kitchen remodel in April of 2012, the total cost for the kitchen was $30,000. So we can enter that information in and it will put it onto a 20-year depreciation scale. They paid $30,000 for it back in 2012. It's not going to be worth that now in 2017. One thing I would like to point out, if they did a improvement to the property that is not on this list, there is an other at the bottom. So you can type in, maybe they added wood flooring throughout and they completed this at the same time in April of 2012. They did 2 rooms, which was $8,000. Okay, so you can throw that in. It's put on a pretty generous depreciation scale because it's not tabled to something that they can collect. So you can refine the value based on improvements that were done to the property. You can also refine the value based on needed improvements. So as you're walking through, if you notice the back slider is not locking properly, that's a safety hazard. They want to replace it when they put the house on the market. So you're going to come in and say, well, we're going to replace the sliding door. If you need to get an estimate on an improvement that needs to be done to the property, you may want to go just down to your local home improvement store and get an estimate on what it would be to replace the sliding door with whatever dimensions it is, installation included. Use that. If you have partners through Allison James that you can maybe work with and get an estimate out, partners through your local MLS or your association. A lot of associations have affiliate members. Any professional in the community is always happy to come out and give you a free estimate. So if you're saying the sliding door needs to be improved, they need to replace it, a custom sliding door is going to be $5,000. You can add that and it's going to depreciate the home's value by that amount as well. The fourth and final way to refine the value is based on the market and home conditions. And this is where your realtor-centric knowledge of your local market comes into play, because it could be the difference of the value on one side of the street to a neighborhood on the other side of the street. And we know that all too well as agents. So you can refine the value using a slider scale based on local market conditions. if this neighborhood has a low days on market and low inventory, or a high days on market and high inventory. You're just going to come in and say, well, the local market conditions are above average or they're below average. And how below are they? So you just use this sliding scale. How is the home exterior condition relative to comparable properties, home interior condition relative to comparable properties? In these localized markets, you guys know what homes have been listed and have had improvements and not had improvements. Is the property's value impacted by the lot size, the view, the privacy? All of these have that sliding scale, which may depreciate or appreciate a home's value.
Katie,
And Tracy,
we do have
is there
a question.
question?
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Oh, great minds. Okay, my friend Jacob in Temecula was saying he does not see pool addition in the home improvements list. Would you just put other and then put the cost?
Yep. You want to make sure when you're doing other, you're coming in here, and I'll show you. If I just select remove, we're going to come in again and just select other. You're going to put pool installation. Maybe add, if it's in-ground, Pebble Tech, a good describer, and then when it was completed, okay, and what the total cost of the pool was. Okay, and that's going to add that value.
Awesome. Okay, and then next we have somebody that said that it was Lee Newton said came in late. So I entered late. Do these updated values show to other realtors who run an RVM? I'm not sure.
No, they do not. These tools in RPR are tied to the realtor that's associated with that account. So you can add as many notes, you can add as many photos, you can refine values, you can create CMAs. And the only one that's going to see that information is you. And if you choose to share that information with your client, you can also opt to have this information appear on the report. I can run a refined value, even though it's in here. It's still up to me to share that report with my client. I can suppress all this information if I choose to, depending on my market and what I know about my client. Okay.
Yep, that's good for now. I'll let you know when we have another.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to go back to our summary page. This is kind of my grounding point. We can see here what the RVM value is, when the last update was. We can see with our adjustments based off of errors and omissions for public record, based on improvements that were done or need to be improved in local market conditions, we can fine tune that value. So the next step, and we're actually going to cover both of these, number 3 and number 4, without jumping back and forth between the PowerPoint. So what we're going to cover is the comparative analysis, which is an estimate based on comps. It's what I consider like a quick CMA. And then we're also going to cover our sales comparison analysis, which generates our valuation workbook. So these are 2 different types of CMAs that you can generate depending on what you are most comfortable with. So let's dive back into RPR. From your summary page, you can jump right into your comp analysis by selecting the comp analysis on your navigation bar. You're going to see that we have the subject property. This is going to follow us step by step through our CMA creation. You'll see that we have the 2 types of CMAs here. We have the sales comparison analysis. We're going to hold that off for a moment, and we're going to jump with the comparative analysis. After the presentation today, if you have a question on what the difference is between these 2 types of CMAs, there's a little video right here on what the difference is. Top one is the quick one, the sales comparison analysis. The second one is the more detailed. Both of them, however, are done in this 5-step process, or 4-step process really: confirming the home facts, searching for comps, making adjustments to those comparable properties, and then reviewing and pricing your analysis. So step number one is always going to be to confirm the home facts. And this could be a discrepancy from what exists with the property and what either the MLS has or what public record has, if you just want to verify information, or if there is a comparable feature that's not included in the summary of information that you want to add. So right to the bottom, there is a section where you can add a row. So if there was something like a fireplace that was important, if there is another feature and it's not on this list and you just wanted to come in and say, well, I want to add a frontage field because my subject property is golf course frontage. And that's going to add value to the property for the purpose of the CMA. You can add your own fields. So those are some tools that you do have at your disposal. I'm going to go ahead and confirm the home facts and close. Step number two is finding the comps. Again, the summary of our subject property is to the top. If there is a property I want to add for sure, I can add it by address or MLS ID number, and then I can always come back and search an area for several properties. The default area is going to be the map view that you see here. So if you want to be a little bit closer, you can zoom in. If you want to be a little further out, you can zoom out. You can also use our map tools, so you can draw a box for your search area, a radius, or a polygon. You can use geography, such as within a neighborhood or within a school zone. If you have a saved area, you can use a saved area for as well. As your search criteria goes, there are some presets that are going to come into play. You can change these, but if your subject property is a single family home, your property type will default to single family home. It's going to include any sold property. And then below the solds, it's also going to show you the competing properties or the local inventory. So what's actively listed for sale and what's pending. Remember, you don't necessarily have to use these as comps, but they're there to help you keep an eye on what the competition is. If there is a keyword that you want to focus on, you can use a keyword filter as well. When you're looking for your sold date, you have a recently option, which gives you a selection of last week, last month, last 3, last 6, 12, or 18. Maybe if it's a little bit of a unique market and you want to go 9 months back, you do have a date range option. You just change that little radio button, and then you can flip through the calendars to the specific date that you're looking for. You'll get a differential on your beds and your baths and your living area, but you can very easily tighten up these fields just by clicking into that box. So if we wanted to come in and say, well, I want something a little bit closer to the living area of my subject property, maybe I just want to go 1,300 square feet to 2,100 square feet as an example. That's how easily you can tighten up those comparative search filters. If you want to include things like lot size, price range, price per square foot in your built, you just select the option, make sure the minimum maximum criteria is to your liking, and select search.
Katie, I have another, it's not, I don't know if you would call it a question, but maybe you can clarify for somebody. Pat is asking or saying, you appear to be indicating that the costs incurred for various updates or remodeling equal value. Cost does not equal value. The market reaction to those updates or remodeling equals value. Does that, can you clarify for that? Of course, it doesn't equal the value that you put in. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less even.
Right. And I want you to keep in mind those features or that tool, that information is not coming from RPR. That value is coming from Hanley Wood, which works at a regional level across the US and looks at new construction costs and remodeling costs and how they depreciate over time and what value it adds to the property for that region. because a major kitchen remodel to a minor kitchen remodel is going to depreciate differently over time because of the nature of the improvement, where a kitchen in California may pull a higher value or have a lower depreciation scale than a kitchen in, say, Colorado.
Correct.
So it does look at those different regions, okay, and it takes that into account as well, and then it puts it on that depreciation scale. If you're working with that refinement tool for a buyer, I don't want to say to a certain extent, but cost does determine value, because when they're walking through a property and they're seeing that, you know, it's worth $395 and it's listed for $394, but they need to fix a door, which is $10,000. The roof has a leak, that's $3,000. That is coming off of that price tag for them. So it kind of correlates the same way when it's improvements that need to be done for the property.
Great,
Hope
thank
that
you.
helps. But back to our CMA, now you're going to see here, we do have our map, and our map is going to have our legend to the bottom where we can see our subject property is the one in orange. The recently solds are the greens that pop up, and then you have your pendings and your for sales in your blues. Now I can look at comps right from the map. I can select any of those greenhouses. I can get a summary of information and view more details. And I also have an option to select that as a comparable property right from my map, okay? As I scroll down, you're gonna see the ones that I have selected from within the map view are already in that beige tone. I can see the properties that were included in the RVM highlighted here as well. And I'm not studying these properties, I'm just picking them for example purposes only. One thing I would like to point out though, in a lot of markets, one of the issues that agents see is that they can't pull those MLS sales and those public record sales into the CMA very easily. RPR does that for you. So a lot of times if you are seeing properties that don't have a photo or don't have a days on market count, you may want to take a look at that, because that could potentially be a for sale by owner property in the market, and that information is coming from public record and not a recent sale. Mind you, if it's something that is coming in from public record, as long as it meets that criteria of your sold date and the rest of the criteria that you've had, it's going to be included in your search results. So it's pulling from two sources. I'm going to scroll through these solds. We got a lot of them, 57 solds. But I just want to share with you, here are the competing properties. So I can see that really within a mile of my subject property, there's only one active listing. It's only been on the market for 13 days, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pendings. So we're going into a pretty intense market. So if we price this property right, we could get a great contract for our seller with limited time on market and a quick sale. So that's kind of how that active and sold information can come into play. I'm going to scroll up and we're going to move on to the next step in our CMA process. We verified the comps that we want to use, and we're just going to come in and update our evaluation and close. Okay. We're going to see step number 3. We're going to make our adjustments. So without making adjustments, we can see our average price based on our comps is just under $600,000. So now you're coming in to adjust your comps. There's some aesthetics that you can do here. You're going to have your subject property comp 1, 2, 3. You're going to go next for number 4, but they are distance from subject property. So if you want to move the order, maybe by most recent sale or closest comparable property, you can change that order. You can also enlarge the photos. But you're really coming in and you're following the directions as stated here. You're rating your comp compared to the subject property, excluding square footage. So I'm looking at the beds, I'm looking at the baths, I'm looking at the lot size, I'm looking at the year built, and I'm simply coming in and saying, okay, well, this property is a little bit better. Well, that's going to have a negative impact on our subject property. It's going to decrease the value by just over $8,000. That's about $5 a square foot. Where if I come in and say, oh, well, this one's a little bit worse, well, that's going to have a positive adjustment to our subject property. And we get our tally here. So we went down $5 a square foot, but then added a few more dollars. So you get your gross adjustment amount for that. You have a section to the bottom where you add your notes. And then you just simply update your evaluation and close. So you'll go through each subject, each comparable property, use that slider scale. You get your adjustment amount, and then to the bottom, you get your results. You can edit this field. If we think we're gonna get anything from 570,000 to 610, we can put that information in here and leave our recommended price field blank and sit down with the homeowner and talk about their motivation, their equity, any other little factors that come into play. If we wanted to write the price in at that point, we can. And that is your comp analysis tool. When it comes to the comp analysis tool, if you want to create this in a report for your homeowner, you can very easily do so by creating a report. It's going to bring you right into a seller's report. Now, if you haven't done an RPR report at this point in time, take a look at the sample. You can page through all of the pages and then look at the more details. This is where you can pick and choose the elements that you want to include in your report. And the element could be a piece of information on the page, like an RVM value. It could be the homeowner's information, or it could be a whole page of information that you want to trim out. You can include or exclude the element simply by unchecking the boxes. As you fine tune what you'd like to include or not include, it becomes a default. You can hover over these little information icons, and that's going to give you an idea of what the information is that you're suppressing on the report, or what the page is that you're opting to remove. Okay.
Katie?
And then you would just come in. Yes.
Excuse me, I just have another question from my friend Jacob. He said, is there any feature in RPR that deals with the solar system additions with a lease? It's hard to say what the value that these add because there's no purchase option, but they do reduce the electrical bill considerably. That's a tough one, huh?
Let me touch on that in just a second when I show you the
All right.
report.
Great.
Okay, so that's, you can pick and choose the elements that you want. You can limit the amount of photos, which is great. You can limit your market area activity if you want to include market area activity. You can include the recipient's name and type in a custom message. You can email it directly or display it as a PDF. Now, I would just like to point out, oftentimes, even though we're using a seller scenario, you create a CMA for a purchase price for your potential buyer. If you don't want to weed through this seller's report, you can opt to include or print out a property report. And if I come into my property report, it does include the comp analysis result, but it includes more information that a buyer would be interested in as opposed to what a seller would be interested in. So I just want to point that out. Now I have a copy of the seller's report, and this is pretty much the layout of all of our reports. So we get the aerial, we get the home values, we get the comp analysis, we get the home facts, we get the extended home facts. And I had a question about energy consumption. Well, what we have and what we do is we partner with a company called Tendril Data. And they aggregate information from utility companies and throughout the internet to identify the cost of electrical use within a home, and they index that based off of an energy score. And then they compare the value or the cost to that property to what the local average is. Although the solar panels are not reflected within the breakdown, it may be reflected that it does have a low impact on energy usage. So you can see the breakdown of the utility costs and how that's applied to lighting, kitchen, electronics, water heating, laundry, and other. So this is something that you may want to take a look at to identify the energy consumption within the home. We have our refined value for our market conditions. We have local market health, some statistics, and then here's our comp report with our side-by-side, market area activity with our side-by-side. So if you want them to see that inventory, and then our recommended pricing strategy to wrap things up. If you want to include something like a net sheet, that would be there for you as well. We're going to jump into number 4, and we're going to take a look at that sales comparison analysis. What I did was I changed that radio button, and as soon as I changed that radio button, this dialog box popped up, and it's saying, hey, if you're an appraiser as well as a realtor member, please enter your appraiser license number and the state that you work in. If this doesn't apply to you, just check the option not to show again and skip the step, and you'll never see that again. As you go through, step number 1 through 4 pretty much is the same except for step number 3. So step number 1 is confirming the home facts. You'll see you have more features that you can compare, but you can still add rows if you want to include a feature that's not on this list. So you confirm those home facts and close. You're going to find your comps. Okay. It's going to give me a little dialog box that says you've already generated a sales comparison analysis. Do you want to use the same ones for your now in-depth analysis? I can use the same ones, or I can say I want to look for new ones. I'm going to look for new ones just to share with you that the screen that you apply your search criteria to is pretty much the same. Okay, so I'm real quick just going to hit search for my comps, because the way you apply your search criteria is the same. I'm going to go through, select a couple of those properties. I'm going to update my evaluation and close. I get my comp selected with my range, and now I'm going to adjust my comps. Those features I shared with you, how to see your additional comps, how to enlarge those photos, how to change the order, that's the same. What's different here, if you're making adjustments to your comparable property, you have to use that hard dollar amount for your adjustments. And we, RPR, does not provide that information. So as an example purpose only, if my subject property is 3 bedrooms and I have a comparable property that's 4, I need to take that value off of that comparable property. And I'm going to guess and say a bedroom in Carlsbad is worth $20,000. So to take that value off of my comparable property, I'm going to subtract $20,000 in value, which appears in big red letters. Okay, if you're going to add value, maybe I'm going to come in and say, hey, this comparable property doesn't have that half bath. Well, a half bath is worth $5,000. So I'm going to add that value to bring that subject property in par to where my comps are. So to make your negative adjustment, you're subtracting and typing in that hard dollar amount. When you're adding value, numbers are positive, so you're just typing in that hard dollar amount. You're going to see that your net and gross adjustment values are always calculated to the bottom. There is a section for you to add notes. You can add notes and include them in your reports or not. And then you'll see the adjusted value of your comps below. You can also, in the sales comparison analysis, weigh your comps. And that's essentially saying we have 4 comps. Each comp is going to weigh 25%. Okay, so we'll look at each property equally in order to get an estimate in value or a suggested price. Now, in my mind, I may be thinking, well, that's great, but 2 properties I didn't have to adjust because they were so close to my subject property. So I want more weight going to those 2 properties and less weight going to the properties that I had to adjust. So on any of these comparable properties, I can hit that edit button and I can weigh all of my comps equally, or I can auto weight them where the system is going to put an emphasis to the properties that have the least adjustments done. So you have the ability to use that weighting scale. Okay. Then you're just going to come in and update your evaluation and close. And now with this sales comparison analysis, we're going to generate a valuation workbook. So when we come in to create our report, we have our valuation workbook. We have our more details where you can pick and choose the elements and the pages that you want to include in your report. You can suppress information, and then you would personalize and deliver that report in the same way that we saw earlier. Now, I have a valuation workbook pre-generated, and I'm just going to scroll through because when you look at this report at first, it looks exactly like this sales report, that seller's report that we've generated. I have a couple of different maps in here, but now we see our subject property, where those comparable properties land on our sliding scale. We get our map view. We get our side-by-side view. Okay. You can have a full property detail view with net and gross adjustments amounts for each comparable property with photos. So I'm very quickly going to scroll through this. Don't get dizzy. But I want to share with you the local market condition summary because this is really what sets the valuation workbook apart. This is where you get that inventory analysis, sales absorption, active supply, okay? And you get it over your trending period. So 7 to 12, 4 to 6, current to 3, decrease, increase, or stabilized. And then it does that inventory analysis, including distress listings, not excluding distress listings, and only looking at distress listings, and then those statistics that are tied to that. So that type of analysis is specific to our sales comparison analysis. I'm going to go back to our property details because I want to remind you, you have a little video here on what the difference is. Jumping back, I'm going to show you two real quick ways to search for distressed properties. Back to our MLS or RPR, we're going to go to our home page. Okay, we're going to start with our all property search tab. This is a way, if you're looking to target potential listings, you can come into your all property search. You can enter your city name, and I'm going to use the same zip code that we were playing with, which is 92010. I'm going to get my pick list of options. So I'm going to come in and do Carlsbad, California. And I'm going to click on my advanced search operator. I'm going to jump down to about the middle of the screen where it says show. And I'm going to come in and unselect non-distressed properties. And I'm also going to deselect actively listed and pended properties. So this is going to give me properties that are in financial distress according to public record and are not currently listed. I can click on my magnifying glass. It's going to go ahead and execute the search. And there are my 14 properties that are currently in financial distress and not listed. Now, in the same tone, if I very easily go back to my home page, if you maybe wanted to do the same type of search, 92010 in Carlsbad, I can go to my advanced. If I wanted to target properties that were maybe distressed or not in distress, but bank owned, I can type in the name of the bank or lender. I can type in Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. If I was searching for properties that were in a trust, okay, I can put that type of loose information into that owner name or company, and it would bring up those properties as well. So you could do bank owned include non-distressed or distressed properties. If you're looking for potential properties for a buyer that are in financial distress, if they're interested in purchasing a short sale, you would just click on your for sale on your navigation bar, type in the market area that you're looking to search. You're going to look for those active properties, and then you can just select your foreclosure or bank owned, pre-foreclosure, auction, even your short sale properties. Okay, so if it's indicated within the MLS that it's a potential short sale, or we can weigh those options where we can get the mortgage information and the list price and see if it's a potential short sale, it will generate that information as well.
Katie?
So, yes.
Sorry, I have Brenda Wyatt asking, do you have to list a specific bank name or bank owned?
Well, you want to list a specific name. Now, you can do something very general, like bank. If you want corporation owned, a lot of times you could just type in LLC. If you want something that's in a trust, you can type in trust. But if you're looking for, maybe you have a connection with a local bank in our area is PNC. So you can just type in PNC. If you want to find properties in a market that are owned by PNC, you can do specifics as well. But usually there's a couple of variations. Like sometimes you could type in the word bank, or you're going to type in BNK because it's abbreviated. So you'll want to use a couple of different approaches to get the information that you want. Okay, great question. I'm going to come back. We want to talk about some of the mapping tools that we have in RPR. I'm going to go back to our system. And in this circumstance, I'm going to do a for sale property search. And I'm going to type in Carlsbad, California. We'll do the same zip code. You can put in your price range. So let's say they're looking for 700 to $1 million. I can go into my advanced. I'm going to do single family. We want non-distressed properties. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my magnifying glass, and that's going to execute our matching properties. On the top, I do have a list view on the top left and a map view, so I can very easily toggle back and forth between the list view and the map view. I also have some options here under my map tools where I can draw shape. So if I want to maybe cross borders and do a box search or a polygon search and say, well, let's look in this area, I can then duplicate my search in that area. So those tools are fairly common. One of the tools I really like is the ability to use a map pin. So if you have, and I know our market here is a little unique, so I'm gonna come in. If I have a potential buyer and they travel a lot for work, they fly cross country quite frequently, they leave out of the McClellan Airport, and they wanna be within a 20-minute drive to the airport. I can come into my map tools and use a map pin. Oftentimes you have distance as a pin, where I can come in and very easily type in an address or just click on the location and say, hey, they want to be within 3 miles of the airport. But I think now we live in a time where you could be 2 miles from an airport. It's still going to take you 2 hours to get there. So you do have that option of doing drive time, where I can come in and now enter a property address or drop a pin and say, if they're driving to the airport at 9 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and they want to be within a 20-minute drive, I can apply my search criteria as well. Click anywhere in that purple and you can search that area, and you can also save that as a custom area. If you want to clear that information out, you have in very small font on the upper left-hand side a link that says reset map, and that's going to clear out that map area. Okay. One of the other things that I'd like to share, I'm going to zoom in a little bit to do this, But if they're looking for a custom area, you can save a custom area from your pick list. And then you also have show geographies. So if they're in an area, and your show geographies is going to change a little bit depending on your Zoom level, but if they want to be within a zip code, if you want to see particular neighborhoods in an area, or if you have a buyer that has to be in that school zone, you can overlay those zones on your map. And then I can come in and say, okay, well, this happens to be Hope Elementary School. And then I can very easily pull a market area activity report, which is an inventory report for that area. Or I can search in that area to identify those properties. If they want to make sure that they're searching in an area that has good market health, on the lower right-hand side of our map, you also have heat maps. The heat maps are going to share statistical information such as 12-month change in estimated home value. The darker the blue, the more appreciation. The deeper the red, the more depreciation. You can look at things like pending sale concentration, list price versus sales price, density, and flood zone information. So those heat maps can be a valuable tool as well. Those are some of the mapping tools that we have. Now I'm going to run the last 3 market area activity reports, your neighborhood report, as well as relocating clients, because these tools are great on all aspects. So your market area activity report, print these out, have them at an open house. Share these market area activity reports with your investors. Send them on a monthly basis to your farm area, to your sellers, to include them in your listing presentation. Okay, your neighborhood report, great for open houses and new buyers, great for relocating buyers. Okay, and then if you want to research market areas outside of your local market, which is great for relocating clients. So these are all kind of tied one to another. So we're going to go back to our home page, and we're going to look at that Carlsbad zip code again. So I can come in and go to my market area activity. I'm going to type in that zip code, and this is just going to allow me to come in and say, for the last 6 months, 3 months, last month, last week, last 3 days, I want to see all the new listings, all the distressed properties, all the pending properties, all the recently sold, and every active property that's had a price change. I also want to see what's for lease or newly leased. Okay, you do have some advanced features if you want to target a specific value. If you want to target a specific property style, you can do that. You can click on your magnifying glass, and that's going to give you that inventory report essentially. And you can very easily come in, create a report, go to more details, get that snapshot of market value, and then share with your client the new listings, the pendings, the price changes, everything that's going on in that local market that they need to be up to date on. Okay. And just to share with you what that market area activity report looks like, it gives you your market snapshot. And then here's my actives. You can do 4 or 8 properties. Here's my pendants. Here's my recently sold or price changes. So it's a nice inventory competition report. If you're doing an open house in an area, you know, maybe see what's sold and what those properties sold at. I'm going to go back to our home page, and we're going to jump into our neighborhood report. Same zip code again. So if you have that open house that you're doing and you want to pull in that neighborhood report, you can do the zip code that the house is located. If you know the name of the community, and I'm going to show you a little trick here. Just below your neighborhood report, you have an exact, you have a within, and you have a nearby selection under type. Well, if I go to nearby, that's going to give me everything surrounding that zip code. If I do exact, it's going to give me the demographics for that zip code. But if I do within and click that magnifying glass, it's going to give me all of the sub communities within that area. So I can come in and see, oh, here's Rancho Carlsbad in California, the median estimated home values growth year over year in value, what the current inventory is for sale, what the median price is, days on market, and how many homes are in the neighborhood. And then I can select that and get additional information in home values, month over month growth, year over year growth. I can get additional information like housing. Okay. So percentage of rent versus own. Okay. Listing volume. I get my people. So this is the breakdown of the population, households with kids, without kids, education levels, income brackets, occupational categories. I have our economy. Okay, this is going to give you your income, unemployment, and your quality of life. So your weather patterns, commute time, how people get to work, and you can create this information into a report. Now you can do the same thing as far as generating that neighborhood report when you're working with a relo buyer. Okay, so I can go back to our home page. Let's say we have a homeowner that's moving from Punta Gorda, and they were referred to me. They're coming out to California. They live in Punta Gorda. A Allison James agent in Punta Gorda sent that referral to me. I want to get information on the house when they listed it, what it looks like. I can very easily come in here and type in their address in Florida. And I did double check Punta Gorda, the association. They change or they share their information with all realtors. So any active information they share with all of RPR. So I can very easily come in, type in a property address, see when it was listed, see the list price, get the RVM values, look at the property photos, see the market health, see how many times it was listed. Okay, so you have access to all of this wonderful information when it comes to relocating clients. And here on that summary is that neighborhood report. So you get that same rich demographic information across the US.
Katie, I do have another question that just came in. We have Glenn.
And I just looked at time. I'm sorry, we're a little over, but I have one more thing to show you. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine, that's fine. Actually, I have two now. So Glenn Bockelman is asking, does this show what agent has the market share in the neighborhoods?
It does not, but you could very easily come in. If you know the name of a specific neighborhood, maybe it's here on the property detail, you could very easily go in and do a for sale search in that neighborhood and see who has those properties listed.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But there's no way to generate like a report on that information.
No, I would think you just do that on your MLS. But also, okay, so the last question that I have thus far is why the RVM for some high-end properties is much lower than the actual market value. Example, I was doing a CMA for a property in Calabasas and RVM was shown as 3.5 million, but I knew for a fact that the owner purchased it around 9 million. I've seen that for so many other high-end properties.
Well, you know, that depends. It could be depending on the home. And one thing that you want to take a look at when you're looking at those properties, when you see that RVM value, it is going to give you that last update date. And right underneath that is a link called View Details. And you can click into those details and it will show you which properties were automatically selected to generate that value. Okay. It's also going to share with you what the range is and what the confidence score is. So remember, the range is, well, if this property hasn't been updated and all the comparable, all those that are looking at have been. So look at that range. It may say, hey, we think it's worth 3.5 million, and that could be based on statistics. It could be based on values of bundled property characteristics. Could be based on recent sales. Could be based a little bit on tax value. So there's all these contributing factors that come into play. But if it's saying we think it's worth 3.5, but the confidence score is low, you know, you can pretty much say, well, we're not going to really put a lot of weight into this because there's just not a lot of confidence in that's what the value is. But you can come in and very easily see what neighboring properties it's looking at. And then you're weighing your options. That could be a great tool for you to tell your homeowner, well, I know this program says your home is only worth this much, but these are the properties that it's using to analyze, and these are the features that make your property have an increased value. So we're going to take this, it's water under the shed. We're not going to look at it again. We're not going to let that negativity bother us. Okay, and you can print this page as well. The last little tool I want to share with you is the trade area report. And the trade area report is really just for the information junkie. Now, when you're looking at the upper right-hand corner of RPR, you do have a link into the commercial database. So you guys as agents have access to both commercial information as well as residential information. We're going to jump right into our reports tool, and we can jump right into our commercial trade area report, and you can type in any address. So any city, any zip code, anywhere across the US, and you can generate this trade area report. You have more details. You can personalize it and deliver it the same way. But if you have a potential client that's really invested in the fabric of an area and what makes that area unique, this is a great report that you can share with them, because this is going to come in and say, this is the segmentation, or this is the tapestry, this is the fabric that weaves this community together. It's built based off of soccer moms, bright young professionals, the urban chic, the suburbanites, and Pleasantville. And this is the market share, or the percentage of households in each segment. This is a little bit about each segment, how diversified that is. And then it tells you a little bit about who they are, what their neighborhood is like, what the market profile is like, and what their socioeconomic traits are like. So if you do have someone that is relocating to a market area, if you have someone that's maybe interested in opening a potential business in a market area, this is a fantastic report to share with your client or your customer. So that's the trade area report, and that is in the commercial. So once again, you just very quickly toggle back and forth between the residential and commercial link right here, and then jump right into your reports, and then simply select your trade area report and put in the location, and you can generate that for anywhere across the US. So very quickly, that is the top 10 tips. Hard to do in an hour, especially for me. I like to talk. But if you have any questions or want copies of any of the resources that I shared with you today, you can access that information at classinfo@narrpr.com. You can access RPR through your local MLS at or direct from RPR at www.narrpr.com. You can download our mobile app through the App Store or Google Play for Android. And visit our blog. We have great pre-recorded video presentations. We have webinars that you can register for. We have ebooks that you can read. And any additional questions, please contact our customer support. They're located in Omaha, Nebraska. Their contact information is right in front of you, and we have support links at the bottom of every page. I'm going to really quick say thank you, Allison James, for allowing me to present this information for you, and sorry for running over. I am going to hang out.
Fine.
If there's any other questions that you have, I'm going to leave this information slide up so you guys can jot down your access to RPR direct through your browser, which is rpr.com, and you have a minute to write down our blog address as well as our support number.
Or also just what I would suggest too is get your camera out and take a picture of your screen.
Yep.
And you have it right there. Ruben wants to know if you're available for a listing presentation at 5 p.m. today.
Well, I am actually located in the Tampa Bay area in Florida, so I don't know where you are, but we have great resources on our blog to help you utilize RPR for a listing presentation. So you can find that video.
That is great. You have a lot of fans on here. You have David Cobb saying, thank you, Katie. You have Ruben saying, thank you. You have Mary saying, thank you. Excellent training. Ruben wants to fly you out. David saying thank you. So with that all being said, I would also like to, and thank you, Lee. They're saying one of our best seminars. So maybe we'll have to have you back, Katie. I know that you had a ton of stuff. So.
Great. And it's a great product. I love sharing it. I'm just excited to have a brokerage that's passionate about it too. So you, Allison James agents, put a pat on your back. Thank you. It's heartwarming for all those comments, and I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season.
Yeah. Also, again, I'd like to thank all of you, and I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas from the Allison James corporate staff. And please join us again. We will definitely have Katie back. This has been so joyful as an agent for almost 17 years. I was so excited when when my association put it on, actually my MLS, Sandicor down here in San Diego, put it on for us to use as realtors down here. I've been using RPR for years. I'm so excited about this. And please reach out to their customer support. They have great customer support. So with that being said, again, I want to thank you. And Katie, again, thank you. And I look forward to doing this again.
All right.
Everybody,
you guys
thank
have
you.
A great one. Have a productive day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.